Alright, my babies. Video number 2. Well, for the day. Remember, I kind of like do like 4 at a time now. Time moves through you. Deep shit. Time moves through you. Alright, so my first thought was the stories about all the people who kind of like, it's all time related stories. And the one story that's like coming to my mind, I think it's Baba Ji. And it's basically like, it's a legend about the guru who lives in the mountains that appears once every couple of 100 years or something. But that's genuinely not why I wrote this. I think our conception, okay, so like this is coming for now, right? Because like the minute I read time moves through you, that means if you're standing still, figuratively, metaphorically, and all this stuff, then effectively everything else is moving except for you. And if we consider that as well from the aspect of time, you moving every day, because we're moving through the day, the sun comes up and down, so we're clocking one day. And our thought process is basically we're one day into the future. Makes sense. That's a unit of measurement that we did to allocate for time. What if that's a wrong unit of measurement? Again, 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute. What if these are the wrong units of measurement? Let's consider time actually exists. What if they were the wrong units of measurement? What could other units be? Could it be energy? In most animes that I watched, uh, a lot of people, if they expend a lot of their energy because they have like full energy and then there are reserves. And I feel anytime we tap into the reserves, that's when time actually is, that's when we're moving through time. So as long as your kind of levels are at a certain stage, well, as long as you're within your proper energy levels, or at the very least, the energy levels that don't start taking time from you. I've met people that aged 15, 20 years in a period of 6 months to a year simply because of stress, illness, things that weighed on them, right? It consumes them. These are the terminologies that we use. And I've seen people that spend years without looking a second older simply because like they're moving at a pace where they're comfortable and all the other stuff around them are kind of like designed by them, a harmonious energy. If we were to consider time, I really would want to think about it, would wish that I thought about it that way. It's more manifesty, right? Because I want my mind to hear my thoughts. I would wish that I thought about time this way. And from there, I would start basically comparing this statement or this kind of like wishful thinking or declaration to how I process time with everything, right? Because like you process time with everything that you do, and if you do things that you do well, you process time differently than the things you don't do well. Just a lot of stuff, man. And so we're kind of like planting a seed right now to look at things differently. And if I were to reflect on how time moves through you, I think it's more fair simply because It allows us to genuinely be observers, because that's truly the case, right? Like we observe what we're doing, we decide what we want to do, or we kind of like concur with the decision that's being made. And then we kind of see ourselves do it. We're not really doing it ourselves. We're on autopilot mode most of the day. And most of the time, the only things that we're involved in are the things in our head, are the little frustrations, the big drama, or the happy moments slash memories, or the activities, right? There's like, there are certain times when you actually are just completely immersed with your thoughts and at the same time harmonizing with the outside world. Ultimate form of expression, naturally. People call it a state of flow. But so time doesn't clock with flow. Why? Because time is only relevant. The units of measurements that we use are this. And ultimately, whenever we're doing something in the real world, we kind of like process time differently than if we're doing something within ourselves. There's a certain beautiful flow to this relationship that's kind of like throwing me off guard because I want to be thinking about a whole lot of stuff, but I'm trying to bring myself back. So here, imagine me standing still. Everything is moving, and that makes sense because time is relative, and everyone's processing things at their own pace. When I'm moving, though, I only notice after I finish moving. And I documented that mentally through walking. I really think everyone should do that. Because it's almost every single time before I go on a walk, there's always that, oh man, we'll do it later, we'll do it in the afternoon, that kind of stuff happening. Funny enough, the walk itself sets a good pace. Because literally, the minute you leave the house, you have a sense of direction. And you know where you're going and where you're coming, and for how long or whatever it is. Each one kind of like sets a certain goal for it. And based on that, the rest of the day kind of like catches on that state, that pattern. And the minute you finish it, you just kind of like realize that everything in between was not really like a passage of time, more like a reference to how time passed around you. Because like if you walk every day, man, walking is not really the issue. Being with your thoughts is. And you kind of build a certain relationship. Fuck me, man. I don't know if I talked about this different the way I would have imagined it to, because like the minute I saw this, something came to my mind. Time moves through you. If we were to consider time moving through us, then ultimately the timeline that we're on right now would start becoming easier to maneuver. Because if you're walking on on a certain path, to jump to a different path is is not the most effective way. But if you're standing still, let's just say, because you're moving at a certain path with certain speed, any movement beyond the path to a different path is going to result in some like baggage, some turmoil, whatever it is. Whilst if you're standing still, you get to shift the timeline and exist in it directly and walk anywhere you want depending on what you want. So you moving on the timeline is you basically moving through time. But the truth is, everything's going to move regardless if you're actually moving. So taking the peaceful way and kind of like a step back allows you to always decide which flow of time is better for you. And remember, I'm saying flow of time because we're thinking vision, we're thinking goals, we're thinking life, we're thinking growth, we're thinking lifestyle, We're thinking fun, we're thinking happiness, we're thinking tension, drama, all that good stuff. And so it's kind of hard for me to accept it, but I wish I am able to see it. I wish I saw it that way, because you have to use past tense. Everything you use that's not past tense is literally something that hasn't happened. Remember, the future has already happened, right? You just haven't experienced it yet. And I think this perfectly kind of like aligns with this. Because if you're the one moving, then you won't be able to like look around as much as you would want to and make the changes you would want. But if you're standing still and time is flowing, then ultimately you get to experience anything you want at any point in time you want. Okay, it's a video.